On 9 June 2017, Mr. Michael Farrugia was appointed as the Minister for Home Affairs and National Security, where he is responsible for defense, armed forces, police, immigration, airport security, correctional services, probation and parole, and civil protection. May I now call upon Mr. Michael Farrugia to kindly come and address the gathering.
Thank you for that introduction. You might think, how do I sleep? Yes, I sleep well every night, and I try to rest as much as possible and look forward to the following day. Thank you very much, Dr. Dugal, for the invitation. I dare say this is the biggest democracy in the world, inviting one of the smallest democracies in the world. For many of you who don't know anything about Malta, Malta is an island. It's an island in the Mediterranean, in between Sicily and Libya, 316 square kilometers, a population that doesn't match really India. We have a population which is about 450,000 persons. But tourism, which is boosting and booming, and it has reached 2.4 million people visiting Malta each and every year. So at one moment in time, there are not 450,000, but very often we talk about 700,000 persons staying on the island at one moment in time. When we talk about cyber, and before I do that, I want to make a few points why I accepted to come to India for this conference. As the part of the feature at the very beginning, it stated that India was a thought leader of information technology. And knowing that, I had another invitation, actually this week, and I decided to come to this conference because I believe that India has moved forward with regards to innovation in the information technology. It's moving forward in a number of other areas. This is an innovative world, and we have to catch up with the times. Otherwise, we might lose track. And unfortunately, I dare say, we have moved forward with regards to innovation. And like anything good in the world, you can use it for the benefit of the people. But unfortunately, the people can use it in the opposite way to harm other people and other countries. And unfortunately, I dare say, we haven't created the necessary barriers to avoid as much as possible harm being done through these innovations. Unfortunately, there are people who are innovative and are innovative for doing good. Others are innovative for doing the complete opposite. This innovation is not something that was introduced only in big countries, but even small countries like Malta. And we are trying to make most of it. And something that we have realized is that the industry wants to be regularized. And because the industry itself wants to be regularized, Malta has taken the initiative. And Malta being a member, or the smallest member, of the European Union, we have taken an initiative to legislate and took the challenge in legislating in the blockchain industry. And we know that the European Commission is looking at this legislation, undergoing the test of fire, where we succeed, where we fail. But we shouldn't be afraid of not taking the step forward. We know that we can succeed. We have to be careful not to fail. And if there is anything that's not moving in the right direction, as we had actually tried to put forward, we are ready to change and change direction and improve on what we are actually doing. And by doing that, Malta has been recognized as a blockchain island, and we have managed to attract many industry in the blockchain technology to come to Malta, because we have realized they want to be regulated and they feel comfortable to work in an area of regulation. Same thing with cryptocurrency. With the area of cryptocurrency, we know that the banks are still skeptical to accept this new monetary way of doing things. And the banks look forward for the necessary legislation prior to be ready to move forward and accepting cryptocurrency as an official currency. Malta is strong in the fintech industry, in the gaming industry, and we have already announced officially that as of next year, the artificial intelligence, robotics, should be at our front line. And this is a small country, and that's why I started with talking about Malta. This is a small country that's looking for a future, for innovation. We want to introduce innovation. We want to move forward, but in a regularized way. Yes, we know that criminality in the cyber space is real. We know that cyber attacks are real, and don't think that Malta, being a small island, has not been under cyber attack as well. And for that reason, we need to cooperate with a number of countries with sharing intelligence. And sharing intelligence is a way how to be a step ahead of those who want to create damage, who want to create harm. Apart from that, it is also important that sharing of information, legislation, and I want to see, and it's good to note, that even at EU level, President Macron, and I have my friend's colleague who we have just spoken before, is trying to put forth even legislation at UN level. At UN level, where we try to, as much as possible, make sure that abuse of the cyberspace, it's not used to harm the people, not to damage the people, not to reach to an extent where cyber war can take place. And I'm lucky to note that I will be chairing the discussion with regards to cyber war, because we are concerned, and if we are not careful, it very easily cyber attacks can lead to something which is more damaging to the world. Very often people thought things won't happen. And my French colleague, I noted that he mentioned the 100th anniversary of the armistice. Malta then was the nurse of the Mediterranean, looking after those who got injured, and many Indians and many Australians and many others who eventually ended up in Malta to be cared for, cured, and eventually returned to their country. I have to say also that I was a bit disappointed with this invitation. I would have liked if this invitation was last week, when you were enjoying the Diwali festival of light. And from what I hear from many persons I know, it is a very interesting festival leading to the wintry period. And unfortunately, I had to miss that because I had other commitments that I had to undergo throughout last week. But let me conclude on one other thing. The abuse of the cyberspace, as one of my colleagues spoke about crime against children, but I would dare also say radicalization. And if we have to fight radicalization, we have to make sure that the cyberspace is not abused of, and how we can react and how we can deal and how we can communicate with service providers. I dare say that the Commission, European Commission, has been dealing with the big service providers, trying to remove from the internet anything to do with radicalization, but there is always these people who are a step ahead. We are talking and we have made arrangements with big service providers, but we noticed that those who want to introduce radicalization, which might eventually lead to terrorism, that they move to the smaller service providers who might not have the money, who might not have the necessary means to be able to control the radicalization propaganda that it's put on the net. But we should not stop. And I think and hope that this conference will continue helping, even in the fight against terrorism, and also in the fight against illegal migration, where we have noticed that the net is being used more and more to allow people to go to more affluent countries, talking of heaven on earth, when eventually then they realize that then the heaven does not exist. So hopefully, and Dr. Duval, once again, thank you for the invitation. Sorry for taking a bit long, but I have to thank you for this successful conference.
Thank you, sir.